Aqeedah is really the science and the knowledge which gives us the metaphysical ground for our being, according to their existential preference, according to their beliefs, according to the deeply held convictions. The far from right people, they pivot according to their beliefs, isn't it? Their perceptions. And equally, the very kind human being who does so much charity and philanthropy and brings so much goodness and joy to the world, they pivot according to a certain existential being. And so Aqeedah isn't just a bunch of creedal statements or articles of faith. Aqeedah is much deeper than that. Although the articles of faith, so for example, in this type of society, what is a virtue? The man who has the most pleasures in life, or the woman who has most pleasures in life, and they see that as a fazila. The man who has, and the man or the woman who has the best house or the most luxury items and engages in sexual immorality is the happiest, and that's not a fadila. But in this society, it's a fadila, and in this big bad world of sex, drugs and rock and roll, the man who, has the most women and the women who have the most promiscuous and all that, it's considered a little bit of a fadila. That's what they aspire. They consider that good. And so the correct way of looking at being is batil is batil, good is good. And so we make good choices because our faith tells us that these are good choices. We do good behavior because faith tells us أَكْمَلَكُمْ إِيمَانًا أَحْسَنَكُمْ أَخْلَاقًا. The most complete of you imanan, in faith, أَحْسَنَكُمْ أَخْلَاقًا. And therefore it's iman which begates benevolent character. Iman begates that. In this second part, we're going to explore what is Aqeedah. Not just the definition, but really what's the scope, what is it outlining for us? And that's very important. And so we rather than to mention this straight away, just wanted to present a little bit of a context. So Aqeedah therefore really begins the ground for our being. So I'm just going to ask yourselves to try to engage with me as much as possible, because this is a very difficult part to get. Anything generally metaphysical is not easy to get. So I need your cooperation and the application of your beautiful minds, inshallah ta'ala, and those who are listening, inshallah, and try to engage with what I'm presenting here. So Aqeedah really is the science which really begins the ground for our being. What does that mean? We all need so just like in the physical sense, we need a ground, yes? Without ground, we can't function. We need some kind of grounding. Everywhere we go, whether we're in houses or on the roads, there's a grounding, and that enables our existence to flourish. So Aqeedah is really the science and the knowledge which gives us the metaphysical ground for our being. Yes? Metaphysical meaning at that transcendental level. And we exist according to certain preferences. Everyone pivots according to their existential preference, according to their beliefs, according to the deeply held convictions. The far from right people, they pivot according to their beliefs, isn't it? Their perceptions. And equally, the very kind human being who does so much charity and philanthropy and brings so much goodness and joy to the world, they pivot according to a certain existential being. And so Aqeedah isn't just a bunch of creedal statements or articles of faith. Aqeedah is much deeper than that. Although the articles of faith are in Aqeedah, but really the point of those articles of faith isn't something that we just kind of run off our tongues. They're supposed to be convictions in our heart. And these convictions form the basis of our being, the ground for our being, and they form the existential pivot, upon which we pivot in life, or upon which we should pivot in life. This is why Rasulullah SAW, in this point of pivot and faith, Rasulullah SAW used to say, "Man kana yu'min billahi," anyone who believes in Allah, فَلْيَقُلْ خَيْرًا أَوْ لِيَصْمُتْ. Say good or keep quiet. Man kana yu'min, like Rasulullah said, anyone who believes in Allah, who has faith in Allah, who has that conviction. And how do they pivot? They should be pivoting by saying good things to people. by saying good, wholesome speech that is beneficial. And it doesn't have to always serious speech. Sometimes comedic speech and just even superficial speech in the right context has an efficacy. But don't say batil. Don't use speech to injure people's sentiments and so on, or feelings, or don't say things which are batil, like period. So the science of aqeedah is really formulates the correct way to function and being and pivot in this unique tribulation which Allah chose humanity. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing about aqeedah is that it's the correct way of looking at being. It's the correct way of looking at being. So what do we mean by look? Here we mean the word in Arabic is nazar, is noon, za and ra, nazrun. And it's not just the physical side. It's when we say look, we mean we perceive. And so aqeedah is the correct way of perceiving our being and being in general. What does this mean? What this means is that, for example, when we look at phenomena, we have to look at it in the correct way. We have to look at it in a correct way, meaning we have to perceive it in a correct way. And remember, Lucifer is out there on the prowl, loitering with intent to decimate humanity, and his army of darkness and his minions of the demonic shayateen army of darkness, this iniquitous force, powerful but subtle and all that, is out there to destroy humanity. And remember, in relation to salvation, they're going to make us look at the world in a different way. They're going to make us look at us ourselves in a different way, and they're going to make us look at the ultimate reality in a different way. So for example, I'm just giving you examples. I'm making this science intelligible for people to the best of my ability, okay? So for example, the way we look at ourselves, like, why is it all relevant? Because there are people now that, I've got a male body, but I feel like a woman. I'm a woman, got male parts, but I'm a woman. That's how powerful looking at, the correct way of looking at being. Our self has a being, our body has a being. And so if we look at ourselves in a way which is not correct, so meaning, for example, a man is a man born with male genitalia and male organs. Now, a female is a female born with female genitalia and female organ, and female functioning and masculine function, testosterone and estrogen and hormonal, unique circumstance and set of hormonal in women and men are very different. And so a man is a man and a woman is woman. That's the correct way of looking at being. A tree is a tree. Man is in contrast to a woman. There's no such thing as gender fluidity, and so, but according to, the places where we work, that's now the prevailing, or in society, that's the prevailing way of looking at things. But does it mean that we follow suit? No, it doesn't. It means it's not, we don't do a riot or anything like that and undermine the means of risk, right? But in our hearts, we look at being in the correct way, not in the incorrect, and certainly not in the way of batil and falsehood. And equally looking at not just physicality of being, but the metaphysical aspects of being. So for example, what is a fazila? And fazila is virtue, and what is a sin, like ma'siyah and so on, and fisq, and so we need to know what a fadila is. So for example, in this type of society, what is a virtue? The man who has the most pleasures in life, or the woman who has most pleasures in life, and they see that as a fazila. The man who has, and the man or the woman who has the best house or the most luxury items and engages in sexual immorality is the happiest, and that's not a fadila. But in this society, it's a fadila, and in this big bad world of sex, drugs and rock and roll, the man who, has the most women, and the women who have the most promiscuous and all that, it's considered a little bit of a fadila. That's what they aspire. They consider that good. And so the correct way of looking at being is batil, good is good, zina is batil, nikah is wholesome. And equally at the same time, for example, this is why the correct way of looking at being is so important that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a profound dua And that dua is Allahumma arina al-haqqa, Allahumma arina al-haqqa farzuqna ittiba'ah. Oh Allah, show us the truth as the truth is and make it manifest in our heart. Warzuqna ittiba'ah, and give us the tawfiq, your divine providence, to fulfill that, to follow its directives. Now, and then the Allahumma arinal batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. Oh Allah, show me the falsehood as falsehood is, and make that falsehood manifestly false in my heart, and give me the ability to keep aloof from it and to keep away from it. Because why? Because the way we look at things has big impact. And so this is the second aspect of aqeedah. Second aspect of aqeedah is the way we interpret, the way we perceive, the conclusions and the judgments we make about phenomena. And this is, as I said, it's on so many different levels: the physical, the metaphysical, angels and demons, the realms of the unseen, okay, and future time, the time which is going to happen in the future, like a life which is happening in the future. And so why? Because the mushrikeen to whom Rasulullah SAW was sent to for their redemption, they didn't believe in a future life. They don't believe in a future time for humanity where they will be resurrected. They didn't believe, and that's why they say we live and we die, and everything ends with that. And it carries on. This Jahiliyyah is like, live life to the max because you only live once, and so therefore, wreck yourself to destruction as much as you can. Although they say, have as much pleasure as you can, and this bucket list before I die, because I've got to experience this and I've got to experience and all that. And so that's the incorrect and batil way to look at the phenomena of time, because time is the ultimate vessel for existence, contingent existence that Allah has created, place, and all of these aspects. And so the belief in the unseen realms, and yes, we can feel certain aspects of them, and gives us shu'ur. So for example, why do people feel immensely peaceful and serene in masajid? And so you have something called the spirit of place, the spirit of a place. And so you can go to one space and you can feel really miserable just by being in that space. And I know for a fact that everyone in this room has experienced that. You can go to a room, and just by being in that room or place or that environment, you will feel dark and miserable. And you can go into a different space and you feel raha, a spiritual expansion and tranquility, like really affects the space. And so we see that? Can we can't, and yet we can't discern that with our with the certain physical senses, but our spiritual senses feel that. Why do we feel therefore tranquility in the Holy Lands, in the Haramain al-Sharifain? Like there are people who go to the Haramain al-Sharifain, they're manic depressants, they are general anxiety, and yet they go to that realm and that anxiety just disappears. It's as if it's not there. So what's changed? The same person, but different place, because of the metaphysical aspects of it. So angels and demons. And so we believe in amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wal qadri khayrihi wal ba'thi ba'da al-maut. This is the correct way of responding to phenomena, not just responding, but really initially to face phenomena in that correct way. This is the second aspect. The third aspect of aqeedah is that aqeedah ultimately then directs our actions, and it directs our behavior, it directs our comportment, it directs our feelings and our sentiments. And I don't say determine, I say direct, because there are certain people who have a conviction and yet they still do wrong. So I'm choosing my words very carefully. It directs. A good conviction, a deep conviction, directs. It doesn't dictate, by the way. So why I mention that is because just because you're a Muslim doesn't mean you're not going to do wrong. And we do wrong for a whole host of different reasons, right? Not the the subject matter here. But ultimately, so aqeedah directs. So it's not compulsive, but it's directive. So our conviction in Allah is always there, even when we are about to do wrong, even when we make mistakes, it is there. It's just that we don't let our heart follow that directive, and that's when we enter into ma'siyah. So the aqeedah directs our actions, directs our ethics, directs our comportment, and directs our behavior, and then directs our lifestyle, the way we live, function, and pivot in the universe. That's how powerful aqeedah is. And that's what, again, when Allah talks about this implication, is like, for example, just to give you one example, and then we'll pause here from the second segment, and then we'll go on to the third one. So for example, there's a passage in the Holy Quran where Allah commands, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have faith. Aminu billahi, have faith in Allah. Like if you look at the passage, O you who believe in Allah. That's a literal translation. So yet this is an extremely powerful device of eloquence, which is really saying, O you who believe, really believe. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, aminu billahi. Like really follow faith. Let faith, this last point, direct your actions. Let this faith influence your behavior. Let this faith make you informed about the decision. Let it inform your decisions and the choices we make. And so we make good choices because our faith tells us that these are good choices. We do good behavior because faith tells us, Akmalakum imanan ahsanakum akhlaqan. The most complete of you imanan, in faith, ahsanakum akhlaqan. And therefore it's iman which begates benevolent character. Iman begates that. It directs that, it begates that, it instigates that. And it's there as a constant reminder. That's why we need to have a correct understanding of the phenomena, and we need to approach every being to make our ground of being wholesome, to make our ground of being based on absolute truth, not on conjecture and experimentation and mere whimsical opinions of other people and Tom, Dicks and Harrys. Our ground upon which we live our life is based on solid ground, solid metaphysical realities, not on batil, not on vanities, and not on the fashions and fads and the caprice of humanity and their changing fashions and their changing ideas. That's what aqeedah is. So as a summary, aqeedah is a foundation to everything. Aqeedah is the foundation. And in terms of its meaning, and I'll end with this point in this second part, the word aqeedah comes from al-aqd. And al-aqd means to tie, and it means to bind, and it means to make something firm. So in this sense, al-aqeedah is to really bind us to ultimate reality, to truth, to conviction. Why do we need that binding? We need that binding because what? Because we're weak. وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. We're weak and we're besieged. لَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. Like the Lucifer said, I'm going to delude them all. We are in fitna. إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ fitna. And we're in ibtila. And so we need, so what does this mean? The human condition is a very precarious condition. It's not a jolly good old walk in the park. It's not trivial. And therefore, because it's a big deal, we need something to keep us tied and connected and wholesomely aligned. So aqeedah is the first point of alignment. We need to get this right. And when we get this right, then everything really flows from that. And so the final point is, if for example, this aqeedah is not in healthy alignment according to reality, and any good that comes, the scholars say it might benefit that person, but it's not efficacious to the eternal. And so to make our behavior, our action, our comportment really count at that eternal level, at that abiding level, we have to be wholesomely aligned and well integrated so that our ground of being is really solid. That's how we commence the journey of faith.